we have Rachel in the studio. Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
So, Rachel, you're not supposed to say hello, you know that.
I'm supposed to say hello.
Because?
I don't know, tell me.
Oh, you're supposed to do orgasms?
Oh, am I supposed to?
Yes.
Oh yes, I forgot. Yes. So, sorry, for those who clearly were not in the studio, and everyone else listening, hi, I'm Rachel, and we were discussing the origin of the term orgasm. Because
Please tell us why.
I have no idea. You'll have to sort of wait for season 2 of my show, Wordy WordPecker.
So, Rachel has a show on IBM podcast, and that is called Wordy WordPecker.
That's right.
And I love that show.
Thank you.
It was so much of fun to hear your voice and the way you had written the show. Not only about the words and the history, but the way you had written
Thank
the show.
you so much.
So nice. Really,
Thank
really
you so
enjoyed
much. For anyone wanting to delve into how words sort of come about and the histories they go through and the stories that lie behind them, please listen to Wordy WordPecker on IBM after you've listened to this episode.
Oh, nice plug-in. So I wanted to ask you, when you heard about my show and when
Right.
you heard that I'm going to look at your handwriting,
Yeah.
being the nerd that you are, what was your thought?
Well, that's an interesting question because all my life I've been accused of having good handwriting.
Oh,
okay?
you are that person.
Yeah, I'm that person.
Oh my God.
And I mean accused, I don't mean complimented. I mean that someone sitting right next to you in class will look at your notebook and say, teri to achhi hai. You know.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you're
I
like,
know.
I'm sorry, I didn't think that this was going to be
I was
competitive.
punished the most for my bad handwriting.
Lovely.
So I'm like, I'm going to take revenge.
Lovely.
That's how I invented this.
Fantastic.
So-
Fantastic. And is revenge sweet?
I don't know. We'll figure it out in today's episode. You were
Great.
saying.
Yeah, so I have actually most people I would imagine would be apprehensive because they don't want people to see how ugly or illegible their scrawl is. I have had mostly good handwriting most of my life, and then unfortunately I ended up becoming a journalist.
Oh.
And the worst thing for a journalist is if you can't read your handwriting because you can't play back then all the interviews that you did because you said aapko kaise lag raha hai, and whatever they said, if you can't read back, it affects all your copy. So I've been forced to keep my good handwriting and keep it legible so I can write at the speed of speech. And yeah, I mean, you guys, useless achievements, number one.
I don't think this one you wrote like that.
No, but-
luckily.
No, this one I didn't.
Oh.
So the sample that you're holding with you, I sort of copied from the day's newspaper, slowly and legibly. And I think I write better. Achievement when people are talking.
So by the way, next time we're not gonna ask anybody, or we're not gonna allow anybody to copy the sample because we want it to be a fresh sample,
Yeah.
especially from a writer.
Oh, so you mean I had to sort of write from memory?
Yeah, or like something creative, but that's okay.
We can do that. But theek hai.
We'll use it for time.
Excellent.
For this time, huh? Yeah, I think let's do it. I want a fresh.
Yeah, let's do
sample.
it. Wait, I have a pen, but I want to use mine.
So let me tell you the format of the show.
Of course.
I'm going to look at your handwriting,
Yes.
talk about certain things, and at the same time, we're going to talk about how you deal with your conflicts, places where you feel
Nice.
stuck, and we talk about that as an experience
Oh,
so
excellent.
that our listeners can connect to and understand what
Yeah.
they are experiencing and also find a resolve if at all.
Oh, excellent. Because readers, I got a hell of a lot of conflicts. So yeah, keep listening, please.
Okay. Okay.
Great.
So,
Tell me, as in, how do I start? Do I just tell you my conflicts or my handwriting or what?
no, let's talk about you carried some handwriting samples.
I did.
I want to look at them.
Yes, please. Readers, you won't be able to see this, but when
I like
did...
how we call them readers.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, shucks. Occupational hazard. Listeners, sorry.
I said leaders, which means like listeners plus readers.
Oh, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that. This is where you heard it first. As in, I guess you just scroll and you'll see them through. So that's the oldest one. That's from somewhere in the early 2000s.
And this is the last year
Yes, that's
Okay.
the one.
So we're gonna upload these photos for sure.
Excellent.
If you're okay with that.
Yes, please. Copy my notes, everyone.
So if you look at it, your own handwriting,
Yeah.
and I want you to see, some common patterns. Can you see your handwriting moves towards left?
Yes.
Even here, which is your existing sample,
Yeah.
it is straight,
Mhm.
but slightly towards left.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, everywhere, it is
Yes.
either straight or left.
Right.
Not right. Straight or left.
Yeah.
No, we also have a right slant. So when you actually
Yeah.
have a right slant, that means you're more expressive.
Okay.
Now, what is interesting about you is you're very expressive,
Right.
and you have a left slant, which
Okay.
makes you an introvert
Okay.
or somebody who would really spend time alone
Yes.
and wouldn't enjoy communicating as much.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So this is where graphology becomes interesting.
Okay, that's interesting.
So one stroke spoke about your left slant, which
Mhm.
meant,
Yeah,
your
you mean I'm
introvert.
backward leaning
Yes.
when I'm writing the words. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, fair
So
enough.
imagine somebody sitting in the chair and leaning backward.
Yeah.
So the person, you don't want to approach and immediately start a conversation
Yeah.
with. Whereas, if you look at your handwriting, is slightly big.
Yes.
Like compared to normal handwritings that you can see around.
Right.
Not this one.
Yeah, except for that one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's an average handwriting sample, and this one, if you
So
look at it, is a larger handwriting.
I'm bigger than average, ladies. So
Why ladies? Okay.
yeah,
Everybody.
Sorry, yes, sorry. Scrap that.
Yeah. So when we look at that, that means you love to talk,
Okay.
express, and
Okay.
everything that you express, you kind of make it more colorful.
Okay.
Now, this is a general comment that I'm making about
Okay.
anybody's handwriting that is bigger than normal.
Right.
Now, you have two contradictory strokes,
Yeah.
right? In one place, you don't like to talk much, and in other places, you love to express.
That's true.
Now, this is where the combination of personality happens.
Right.
Yeah. I would state your personality, or if I have to describe it, I would say you're selective with whom you speak.
Okay.
And when you speak,
Right.
you really take time to
Open up.
Open up. And when you open up, when you describe things or when you discuss things with people, you speak in a manner as if the person is experiencing the same moment.
Right.
They have
Okay.
to experience what you have experienced
Excellent.
exactly the way you did it.
Excellent.
And if they don't get it, if they try to kind of, summarize it, quickly run through the details and say, okay, oh, that happened.
Mm.
I'm like, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Let me tell you exactly what happened.
My friend, let me tell you, could be tattooed all over my body. Yeah, Frank, if you are listening, look what's happening.
Who is Frank?
So Frank is my boyfriend, and he makes fun of me because when we have a differing opinion or a way of looking at it, like I will literally hold my finger up and be like, let me explain something. Okay, and yeah, and then I'll kind of run through it, and whether I have explained it to him or not, it doesn't matter. I've got it out of me, man.
Yes.
So that is me. Well done.
Thank you. So if you think what I'm saying is correct, you have to say absolutely right.
Absolutely right.
That's the name of our show. So
Yes.
just for plug-in, I'm gonna say this.
No,
every time.
absolutely
Yeah.
right. Absolutely right.
So now, if you look at it, that part of you has never changed.
Oh God. Yeah, please keep going.
Yeah, and all the people who thought that you try to impose yourself
Right.
by repeating yourself or by giving those ideas and constantly saying things, let me tell you, they were correct.
Let me explain something. Okay. No, you are absolutely right. I have nothing more to explain. Not in this
No.
scenario, but that's so interesting. And you got all of that from
These
what
two-
I wrote and from the speed at which I wrote it?
Not
No.
at all.
Okay.
So I do not read what people write because I don't want to get influenced.
Fair
I
enough.
don't want people to say, let me explain.
Yeah.
So secondly, I make sure that only traits are looked at.
Okay.
So if I look at even the word, I would break it. I would not look at any
that's
word as an entire thing. I would just look at it as a graph.
Okay.
That's why the study is also called graphology,
Right.
where you study the graph behind the handwriting
Right.
sample.
Right. So it doesn't matter what I've written
No,
as long as it's in the English language?
and it is written spontaneously.
Okay.
If you write in a manner that is, if you copy or if you write from memory a poem or something, then it does not
makes sense. Okay.
doesn't talk about you.
Would you like me to read what I've written?
Yes, why not? I haven't read it, but yeah, of course.
But it connects very briefly to what we were discussing before we started recording. So here,
No, or on the recording.
Or on the recording.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that's true.
started like that.
That's true, shucks. Okay, so it connects to something we were discussing as the show started. So here goes. Did you know that the word climax, in the sense that we understand it in the sexual context today, is only about 100 years old?
No.
The end of World War I, which happened in 1918, and the rise in formal psychoanalysis is what led to a closer study of the female orgasm.
Oh.
Ooh. So until then, it seems a woman's satisfaction was not even considered worthy of importance. Yes, yes, no, no. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm so
that's.
happy we had Kama Sutra.
I'm so happy we had Kama
Yeah,
Sutra.
for
Yeah, the East just had it much
5,000 years ago,
better.
people thought women are like
Absolutely.
more important because yeah,
Absolutely.
many positions are for us. So I'm very, very happy.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
All right.
But now you also know why you must listen to her show. She's so good. Like we spoke about all this just before the show, and when you started reading, I wanted to just listen to it.
Oh, what fun. Thank you so
That's
much.
so nice. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
So over to you. Ask any
Yes.
questions, and we take it
So,
from there.
all right. So, I'm actually quite interested as a journalist in what you would do. So, you have seen 3 distinct paragraphs of what I just read out.
Yeah.
And you said that you look at groupings of letters, your graphs.
Yes.
So, let's say, I think the largest word that I can see on the page is psychoanalysis.
Right.
What are you looking at when you look at the word psychoanalysis?
Oh, so I would look at the alphabet P.
Okay.
And the P would be common in 2-3 like it would be there in the
It'll
handwriting
pop up.
twice
Okay.
or thrice. So I would look at variation of P.
Okay.
Also, I would look at how the longest word or any other word or the entire sentence is going. Is it going upwards, downwards? Is it going wavy? A specific word is coming down, going up. All of that are the minute observations. There are around 800 permutations and combinations of handwriting strokes.
Okay.
And that's what makes it so
So
interesting.
exciting. Yeah.
Also, people are that complex, right?
That's
I
true.
haven't come across an identical handwriting till date.
Wow.
Not that I could have
But that's so
figured
interesting.
out.
So my handwriting is very, very close to my mother's.
And are you similar to her in many ways?
Yeah, man. Despite my best efforts. Despite my best efforts.
Yeah, somebody said once that no matter what you think you're doing, you will turn into your mother one
Yeah,
day.
dude.
You're like, no.
Yeah, I spent most of my youth trying not to be like her, and then I was like,
Yeah.
I'm really tired. Let me just try to be me, and I ended up being her.
And
Mommy. So no, we share more or less the same traits.
yeah, and that's why so it's both ways. Either you felt influenced by her so much that you copied her handwriting, which does
Right.
not happen most of the time, or you just copied her traits.
Yeah.
And then your
It
handwriting
reflected through the handwriting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. So, how do people's personalities and traits come across through handwriting, particularly in a time when we're all taught, at least in school, to follow the same cursive, to follow the same capitalized letters, and there are so many formal efforts to standardize how we write, and yet we end up breaking free of all of that.
Right. And do you know this? Like this, one teacher teaching exactly same cursive stroke, and every student in the class who's copying and pasting technically creates his own script.
Wow.
How does that happen? And have you noticed this? It used to happen to me, but probably I'm a nerd in this area. I would pick up a handwriting and I would know whose notebook it is.
Wow.
But I believe that's a common thing. Many people can do it, like because your handwriting becomes thicker.
Come to think of it. If you know them
Your
well
friends,
enough, you know.
And if you're growing with them
That's
for over 10 years, then you
That's
kind
true.
of pick up a notebook and you know whose handwriting it is,
That's
or whose
true.
notebook it is for
That's
sure.
true. That's true.
And how is that possible?
Yeah.
Technically, if the source was same, you're just copying
Yeah.
and you just created your own script.
That's so interesting.
And because your brain can see something, but by the time you process, especially mindless activities, give a lot of information about your mind than you can imagine.
Wow. What other mindless activities should I be a little concerned about?
But anything, like, some people eat their favorite dessert in the beginning of the food.
Yeah.
And some people keep it to the end.
Yeah.
That is about delayed gratification or
Right.
not. So people who
Right.
can hold their favorite item at the end of the meal,
Right.
they believe in delayed gratification.
It's the only good thing about being an adult. It is literally the only good thing. Everything else is a trap.
Which is you can eat your dessert
being able to
anytime.
being able to eat dessert anytime is literally the only good thing about.
Yeah, but it still talks about you.
That's true.
Yeah,
and
so
there are some
whether you
people
like
who
it or
would
not.
still delay it. Yeah. I mean, what is that, guys?
Or the colors that you prefer, or
That's
your
true.
fashion sense.
That's true.
All these things are constantly talking about you. It's just that we don't have enough nerds to really pick it up and
That's
study
true.
every choice. We
That's
had some in graphology, so here we are.
Okay, which actually then brings me to my next question. And sorry, I'm going to just bombard you.
Please.
What would you change about the way that I write and the way that it looks on the page that would essentially give me a better edge in not just professional success, but like a happier, more chilled life? What conflicts do you see that could be resolved?
First, if I want to talk about three important ones, I feel one, you're very excited as a person, but at the same time, that excitement mixed with emotion can become temper, can become impatience, can become somewhere you're rushing to get to the end, and without actually letting other people be involved in the process. So same trait can be expressed in 3-4 different ways. So whichever is applicable to you.
And it connects quite nicely with your introvertedness as well, because the less that you're engaging with people, the more you'd want to
Not always.
work within yourself.
No, not at all. It's nothing to do with other people and yourself. Even if you're alone and if you have to get to the end of whatever you're doing, you would get impatient about it. So it is not about people. This trait has nothing to do with interaction. But when you're interacting with this trait, which is like you're rushing and like, getting to the point with a lot of excitement, and if people are slowing you down, that would irritate you. If people are standing in your way and they're like giving you bullshit, you're like, oh my god, I see through it, and I don't know how to not
mental
show it on my
tamachas
face.
all over the place. One tight slaps in my mind all over the place. Get there faster. But prospective employers, please note, I do complete all projects that are given to me. Thank you.
And prospective team members,
I love you.
I love you all.
Don't worry. Take your time to get there.
Oh, right now before you meet me.
Get there only a little faster. Chalo. That's so interesting.
So if you, and this time or this speed is only your idea of speed. So when you want to like chill and when you want to take your own time, this is suddenly not applicable.
Yeah, that's true.
So Frank, over to you.
Sorry, Frank was not available for this portion of the recording. Frank was in a room somewhere doing an evil laugh.
Oh my god, yeah. He would
vindicated thoroughly.
Oh yeah, he would like clap for me and slow clap for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is an expression, right? So for example, the idea of speed drives your performance, your idea of like, how good and efficient somebody is a lot.
Yeah.
Which is merely a judgment or a perspective.
Yeah.
Something for you to think about.
Yeah. And also has helped me in good stead because the nature of journalism is such that speed is rewarded. So I've been able to thrive in it for
it's very interesting. So when we get rewarded for our flaws, we see no reason to change them.
Speed is not a flaw. No, but I see what you mean. You are absolutely right. I see what you mean.
Yeah, so that was my first point. The second one is your imagination, again, your strength and something that you really, really, take pride in.
Yeah.
You're really good at. At the same time,
how do you see that in the way that I have written?
So, for example, when you write your letter Y, can you see they become the loop, which is like the lower portion, the bottom tail is wider. It's not like, that sometimes it, in some places it ends like this, but otherwise it becomes like this round, wide.
Like there's a flourish, you mean?
Flourish, but also flourish which is horizontally wide. It's like horizontally extended. Whereas if you have, some people have very squeezed portion there. So that is specifically material imagination.
Wow.
Yeah, material, which means you would look at the furniture, you look at like very, very small, minute things, and you want exactly what you want.
Okay.
Exactly.
Isn't that everybody though? Isn't that everybody?
No.
Okay.
No. Exactly means that exact shade, that exact shape, that exact brand, and that exact timing and exact speed.
Right.
So with so many exacts, if somebody has any opinion other than what you thought was correct, oh my god, I can only imagine.
Yeah, I think they get the rough end of my speed, if you know what I mean.
I totally understand. And
wow, so you could get that I'm an imaginative person from the way that I loop the bottoms of my Y's,
And
which
not
would
only
mean
imagine,
G and
yeah, but not only imaginative, it is material imagination. So
as
if you
opposed to what other kinds of
like creative,
imagination.
not fantasies.
No, fair
Don't go
enough.
there.
Why not?
No, not here.
Okay.
Oh, not here. So
Okay.
if it is creative imagination,
Right.
where you kind of, some people strategize well.
Right.
Some people have spatial imagination.
Right.
So they, there are multiple ways in which you can imagine things.
Oh.
In your case, it is specific material imagination.
Figurative things that already exist rather
Exist
than
also
things.
even a word.
Okay.
Like if you look at a word, you look at it as an exact form.
Right.
And you want that
Oh,
form.
that is so interesting.
That form has to be respected, understood. It's not like a combination of letters for you.
Okay.
It's truly a form that builds something.
Right. Because words are codes.
Yeah.
In the way that they are for you, but differently for me.
That's so
Oh,
interesting.
that's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
See, two word nerds get together.
And look at things from different
And
angles.
absolutely, because it's so fascinating to me that you are looking at all these words on a page and saying so many different things, whereas I'm looking at all these words on a page and saying, oh, truncations came about in the Middle Ages. I know that certain letters actually come from Wales and from Welsh languages.
Right.
And you're like, this girl has an overactive imagination or a material imagination. And I'm just like, wow. So the codes actually, there's so
Read
much embedded
differently.
in words that we sort of take for granted. And some of us just read them because they have the word sexual and climax and orgasm in it. So
yeah, they're like, oh, nice paragraph.
exactly. That is so fascinating. Okay.
The third point.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, which one to pick? Oh, okay. So when you start thinking about a project,
Yeah.
or any idea,
Yeah.
You have an end goal in mind,
Yeah.
which we established with our other conversation.
Yeah.
But you tend to, or at least you're doing this over last few months, you are holding yourself back.
Really?
Like you're some areas where you're like, am I like either too excited? Should I do this? So there are these questions which are coming after committing to a project.
Okay.
Not like before committing.
Prospective employers, please turn away now. Sorry, prospective employers, please turn away now.
Yeah, so you are.
How do you figure that?
So
I mean, I wouldn't agree necessarily because the opposite is actually true.
Okay.
But tell me where you're coming from and I'll explain
So for
what
example,
my life is.
Are you on a diet by any chance?
Not at all.
What are you constraining yourself from doing?
It's interesting that you said that I've been doing for a couple of months, because I think since November onwards, I've committed to myself to do less.
Okay.
Yeah. And not exactly a diet, but to do less and eat less, because while it has absolutely no bearing on the way that I see myself, I'm just, and Frank, this is where you come into the picture.
Again.
We've just been indulging ourselves like fools, which is not helpful for either of us. So the goal has been to do less and eat less, but mostly do less, because I have been thinking that over the last year, I've taken on a lot and it's been rewarding in many ways. And I would never ever spit on the gifts received from the universe. But at some point, it has left me exhausted.
That is exactly the point. So when you hold back yourself consciously, where a part of you is like tempted, wants to jump, and the other part is like, oh no, let me be this adult and this matured person, and let me not like give in. That is constraint.
But that's a good thing, right? Sometimes you need constraint, you guys.
Oh, it's a good thing. It's just that I'm telling you. So if you imagine you're doing it unknowingly.
Yeah.
So you would have avoided.
But that's coming through in the writing.
Yes.
Dude.
Okay. Oh, there's so much your handwriting can talk about. It is unreal. Like I don't know whether you know this, but I coach people based on these conversations. So literally,
she's sitting there crying, by the way. This is what you can't see in the studio. She's weeping into her microphone.
Oh, really? Oh, that was a very strong voice for somebody who was weeping.
So yeah, you coach people into sort of changing behaviors?
Yeah, because you really identify these minute patterns, and you say, okay, you have this constraint. Where is it applicable?
Fantastic.
So first I asked you about work, and you said not really. Then I looked at food, and you're like, oh,
perhaps.
Or other life choices.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, of course. So this is where you find it. But imagine if it would have been in your workspace.
Right.
Then we would have looked at it.
That's
then we would have seen, oh, okay, what is making you stop? And I would have asked more questions.
Yeah.
So as a counselor, when I began, I felt my understanding of your story is based on your story, which doesn't make sense because
Because it's only one source.
and also that story has to be questioned.
Correct.
So
Because
I thought,
I'm telling the story, so obviously I'm the hero of my
of
story.
course, and
Yes.
also, you are also avoiding facts, and you do not know the details because you do not look at yourself objectively. Nobody can. I can't look at myself
Interesting.
objectively.
But I'm giving myself away in so many other ways, which are alternate sources for your story.
And also points to question you.
Oh,
At least dig
amaze.
deeper. At
Amaze.
least understand that can we go and look at that area which nobody is aware of at this point in time.
I'm fascinated by this episode of Absolutely Right.
Thank you.
Let it be on the record. That is so interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that if I change the way that I write, can I backtrack and change those things in my personality and my behaviors?
That was my inquiry, and I'm using this word very consciously. That was my inquiry when I was 22, and I started working when I was 18.
Yeah.
So after 4 years, I realized, oh my God, I can tell people what they need to do, blah, blah,
I'm
blah. But
so powerful.
my God.
When you're 22 and you can tell people what to do and they're listening, so powerful.
Yes and no, because, I knew what the handwriting said, but I didn't know what they should have done.
Oh, yipes.
So
Okay.
I didn't have life experience to support it. And I'm like, oh my God, I can see this trait. And they say, okay, what do I do? How do I fix it? And I was blank. I'm like, I needed to read. And then I did multiple therapies.
And you need to have life experience as well, I
fundamentally. And, you can only look at other people's perspective from your own perspective, right? Your own life experience.
Fair.
So that inquiry led me to look at this reverse mechanism. So I started experimenting.
Okay.
So whomever I met, I used to do shorter sessions. So I used to tell people, okay, do this. And I used to be in this, obsessive hurry to fix it. So I used to tell them, okay,
obsessive hurry, you say?
I did. I used to be. I told you. It was past me, but not anymore. So I actually used to ask people to change one or two things in their writing without telling them what they're working on. Because I thought, what if it doesn't work and it backfires? At the same time, I didn't want them to be part of the process. I said, if handwriting has to work,
and that's a responsible way to go about it. So yeah, I'm glad that you went down the path that you did.
Also, handwriting had to prove itself because I needed to know only handwriting worked without the person doing any programming, any affirmation, none of that. Just mere handwriting repetition. So we did that, and there were strokes which had no meanings. There were strokes which were not alphabets.
Wow.
And we kept practicing it, and random people came back.
Right.
Giving me feedback that they changed exactly the same trait.
How cool.
Because that's exactly was correlated, right?
Right.
That changed everything. Then I worked over the last 15 years non-stop on the therapy part of it. So in this conversation, I use graphotherapy, which is using handwriting to change certain aspects and build coaching on that.
How much do you incorporate doodles? Because I doodle a ton.
I always take samples of doodles.
Okay.
I don't analyze them much because I feel the mind freely flows and goes everywhere. But I incorporate them. If they are excessively aggressive or if they are like repetitive.
Right.
Some people like only draw eyes. Some people only drew boxes. So those are the things. If you see, they do have some context.
Yes. But nothing comes out of nothing.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So
every choice we
everything
make,
has something.
every playlist that you have, every Netflix show you watch,
every decision you make.
Everything is constantly reciprocating what is happening
right
around you, and you're capturing it, you're absorbing it.
That's
and you don't think it has any impact, and you say, oh, I don't care, and it doesn't matter, but it does.
You might, I would imagine, have clients or at least prospective clients who doodle more than they write in an age where we're all texting. So how does that fit into?
Even if they doodle, handwriting is that one skill. You remember you learn to cycle.
Yeah.
And if you're asked to cycle, and if you're not into cycling, you'll take
would
5 minutes,
roughly,
5-10 minutes to get your balance again. But once you get your balance,
and handwriting is the same thing because it's muscle memory.
Muscle memory.
Muscle memory, girls.
That's the whole thing. Because if it is, if you
and boys, sorry,
yeah, please be gender neutral on the show, please.
Muscle memory, rainbow. Yeah.
Yeah, so you actually can talk about multiple things.
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. What are the biggest challenges you find with the people that you deal with? If you're going out into the world and they all have conflicts and they all have interests and they all have things to deal with, what eggs you or what irks you the most?
I think my biggest challenge is people think handwriting is mumbo jumbo.
Oh my God, really?
They're like, really, this works? Like, you want us to believe like nobody writes nowadays, and how is that even possible? So for 15 years, there was a point in my life I got exhausted answering the same question. I'm like,
Right.
I don't want to answer the same thing again and again and
Yeah,
again.
please refer to my website. Yeah.
Whatever that. But then they're so curious and they're so innocently curious about it. Like, does it really work?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I did a career in it. Yeah, it kind of
Wow.
works, but that's one of the things that I struggle with. So I
Yeah.
had to build a lot of patience, as I was saying.
Yeah.
So no more hurrying. I'm like, okay, ask me this question 50,000 times and I will answer.
I'd imagine because everyone just comes to you with a blank slate,
Curiosity. Also
which is
curiosity.
actually,
It's genuine curiosity.
yeah.
So they are not incorrect.
Yeah.
It's just that imagine from your end when you have to answer one thing again and again. And if you hear yourself saying the same words, it just
Right.
becomes interesting.
That's actually quite interesting. A friend of mine a couple of years ago had taken a class in graphology, and I said, "Oh, really? You've taken a class in graphology
Oh,
now?"
you give that look. That
Yeah,
exactly the
yeah,
look.
so I had this like eye roll, and I was like, "Oh, what do you think my handwriting says?"
Uh-huh.
And she's a dear friend, so it's not like I would ever actively go up against her and tell her that it is mumbo jumbo or whatever.
Right.
And to be fair, I don't think it's mumbo jumbo. I do believe, like you do, that everything happens. There just because we don't see the backstory, that doesn't
We do
mean there
not
is
know.
no backstory,
True,
right?
true.
And I love art. There are people who look at art and say, "My child could have painted this,"
Better,
or
yeah.
"I don't understand it, therefore there is no meaning." And I think the fact that you don't understand the meaning should never ever be a reason to believe that there is no meaning. So
Yeah.
yes,
In
so I'm on
anything.
your in
Well
anything.
said.
In anything. So she sort of looked at my handwriting and said that the way that I wrote my S's, and you can fill in the terminology, but I think the top curve of the S of, and this is the only thing that I remember, unfortunately. She said the top curves of my S, which is sort of like a cup, is too closed, okay, and there isn't any space in the top S.
Yeah.
And very interestingly, she connected it to money. She said it's probably what's stopping you from making more money. Now, it's wonderful for anyone to hear that there is a possibility, however nebulous, that there is a chance to make more money, guys. So I was like, interesting, tell me more. And she said, if you have a less curvy S,
Or
or
less
at least,
squeezed one.
or yes, actually, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very super way to put it, and it would be less like a swan's neck, so to speak, for
Yeah.
anyone who's listening and may not be able to imagine it. Less like a swan's neck. Would be better for me financially in the way that I hold on to and I consider making money. Now, this may or may not be true, but to be able to zoom in on that and make that connection, I thought was fantastic. Do you agree, disagree? How would you see it?
I would not fully agree on
Okay,
this point.
fair enough.
Okay, I have not connected money to this particular
Fair
stroke.
enough.
So I probably she has different school of thought.
Right.
So I don't see that as a correlation.
Mm-hmm.
But can I comment about your money?
Yes, please.
Ooh. I feel that you love challenges.
Okay.
And money is one of the areas where you keep that challenge up.
Yes.
You don't take up assignments where money can come easy only for the heck of it.
Okay.
Otherwise, your career would have been very, very different.
I'm not as bright as everyone thought I was, see?
No, really.
No, fair enough.
You actually said no to assignments,
Yes,
projects,
that are
and
lucrative.
jobs. Yeah,
Yes.
and that is kind of difficult for people, most people
Yes.
to do,
Yes.
especially in your field
Yes.
where perks more than only money
Yeah.
could have been much higher if you
Yeah.
would have chosen something else.
Absolutely. And it's a choice, not an inability to do something different, better, more lucrative. Wow, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
so when you do that, when you have that perspective towards life, then the time, the areas where you spend time is more important than only the results or outcomes
Great.
in general.
Great.
Right? So if you are not enjoying the process, it can be tough, it can be really, really difficult,
Absolutely.
but you want to make sure that
That's where the fun is.
Yeah, you are involved, you are
That is where the
engaged,
fun
you
is.
are completely absorbed there.
That's
I have another question.
One
Okay?
second, hold on. You are absolutely right.
Thank you.
I am enjoying this conversation more than I usually enjoy handwriting. And you guys,
She loves handwriting.
yeah. Great.
So-
Please go ahead.
So, I would ask you questions around.
Yeah.
Is there something that you would like to focus on right now?
Yes.
And channelize your energy? Is there something more active emotionally or work-wise that you want me to address?
Yes, absolutely. I think for this year, I'm going to give you a little bit about myself and for the people listening in as well. So I'm a journalist, which is a wonderful, fulfilling job. I can't imagine doing anything else. I worked extra hours yesterday.
Oh,
And
nice.
I went back home and WhatsApp to everyone a great headline that I'd written. I mean, who does that, right? But yes, so I have a very fulfilling job. But I also have a thriving Instagram presence in which I take pictures of taxi ceilings. I'm at the Greater Bombay, so shout out to me. And it's sort of taken on a life of its own. It's an art gallery that has been developed just by me sitting in taxis over and over
Oh,
again
nice.
while I'm commuting. And that's had international recognition. It was at the Kala Ghoda Festival in Mumbai last year. It's going to be in Oprah magazine in March. It's been on Colossal. It's been on Architectural Digest. Internationally in Europe, South America, etc. So it's had a lot of coverage. So that's another thing. I have the podcast. I have done some creative writing for Bombay Duck Designs last year. I have a column. I have another column. I have a ton of things that professionally are all wonderful. But, and here's where the conflict is, I'm at that stage in my life where I need guidance from someone who understands the spectrum of what I do. So I don't need an art curator, and I don't need a podcast advisor, and I don't need a social media marketing advisor. But I do need someone who understands the spectrum, like I said, of what I do and guide me forward. And this has been a conflict over the last couple of months as well, as in who has the right answers. So yeah. Please, some help would be of.
But do you know anybody who has touched the spectrum, even in 50% or
Plenty of people in different ways. People who play musical instruments fantastically,
no,
people who
in
have
your
jobs.
space?
Not really, not specifically to the strange mix of things that I do.
So thereby you won't find a person to comment and give you guidance.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, and also like if you look at it, there's a new media, and then there is old passion, and then there is creative writing, and there's like so much happening.
She's crying into her microphone for the second time on the show. Yes, you
No,
are
so
right.
you do not know a person.
Yes.
You wouldn't find somebody easily who'd get the context of what you're doing.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So instead of trying to push yourself in that, outward inspirational guidance or something
Or
like
to
that.
find a Mr. Right.
Mr. Right in this sense.
Or Miss Right,
yeah.
yeah.
What if we take a step back and ask yourself, what is that? And I'm not talking about goals and objectives. I'm talking about what aspects would you like to create as your life. By aspect, I mean you wanted to capture the creative moment.
Yeah.
Or what you thought was fascinating.
Yeah.
That was the aspect.
Yeah.
You wanted people to see your perspective.
Yeah.
Globally.
Yeah.
Probably a few years ago you would have thought about it. That
Yeah.
was the aspect. Now, whatever has come true in all these multiple
Yes. Thank you,
ways,
universe.
thank
Yes.
you, universe, is a combination of the aspects that you demanded.
Yes.
It is not one of those things that happened.
Yes.
You asked for it.
Yes.
And when you asked for it, this came about.
Yes.
In your mind, you kept imagining it. You never thought it would go, your art would go Greater Bombay.
Yeah.
At this level.
No, I
but you
absolutely
always
didn't.
thought something that you would do passionately would go places.
I always wanted to be famous. Yes.
And that is how it manifested.
Yes,
or
fair
it
enough.
came true,
Fair
right?
enough. Yeah.
So what if now you take a moment to make a new aspect list?
Oh, that's an interesting way of looking
So
at
aspect
it.
list is not a goal list
Yes.
for our listeners. It is a list where you sit down and ask yourself, what aspects do I want to experience as my life, not in my life.
Yes.
I want a companion could be
It's
an
a
outcome.
personal life. Yeah.
Whereas you want somebody to share your
You want
experience
company.
with.
Yes.
Company, and that company can be experienced with anybody.
Fair enough.
Not with one person.
Fair enough.
You want a job that can fulfill certain aspects.
Yes.
You don't know whether that's one job or multiple jobs put together.
Yes.
In your case, there are
Yes.
so many different projects fulfilling
Yes.
your all
Yeah,
job.
everything I didn't know was inside me.
Yeah. And it came out every time you responded to the new idea.
Fair.
Now that can happen only when you're consciously, unconsciously, knowingly, unknowingly dealing with aspects.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a good time for you to really sit down
and consolidate.
No, not consolidate. Create a fresh one.
Ooh, okay.
Not consolidate, because it is not operating from your past references. It's not like
Yes.
I had been there, so I would like
Fair
to. There's
enough.
no logic there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see that with people, and I think you can cry the third time, but but high performers
Yeah.
who go ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I'm alone here now. Now there is
Yes.
nobody.
Yes.
There is no guidance.
The brave
as
are
you
usually lonely. Yes.
and lonely because when they started, they just wanted to outcreate the available.
Yeah.
And now after having outcreated it, you're like,
Where do you go now?
Yeah,
Yes.
what
That
is
is
my next step?
exactly where do I go now?
But-
Because like
But you outcreated with some references that you didn't agree with.
Okay. Do
Yeah.
you wanna go back and rephrase that for me? Sorry, journalist speak.
No, but you didn't agree with certain ways, the way things were happening.
Yes.
You didn't think the art should be A, B, C,
Yeah,
D.
yeah,
You say,
yeah.
oh, what if this is something that I
yeah.
feel fascinated by and I make art out
Yeah.
of it? And you held on to the idea
Yeah.
in two perspectives. One is I didn't agree with something, so I'm going to do opposite or different than that.
Yes.
And secondly, I really felt passionate about this, so
Yeah.
I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah.
Now, there was no out creation in mind.
Correct.
Eventually, you created a game and you said,
Yeah.
okay, oh, these people have done this, let me
The aim
do
was
something.
always to subvert the herd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you sit today, probably after this conversation,
Fascinating. Yes.
and find that point and ask yourself the same question.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
She did a non-verbal.
We just we just made heart shapes with our hands like we were at like some kind of festival or something. But no, that's just to sort of reiterate that I'm really getting what's being told to me in so many different ways, which essentially means that okay, let me see whether I know. Given that I'm going to always subvert the herd, I can't change that about myself.
Not at all. And you can. So the S that your friend was talking
Yes.
about, I would say that about it. That constant need for challenge and constantly out creating the norms.
Yeah.
I would say that for me, the S, the way you write your S talks about that.
Okay.
So definitely that point. And
so keep the S or drop the S?
I'll keep it.
Yay! Okay.
Yeah.
We keep the S. No, but I'm so fascinated because you've sort of hit the nail on the head in terms of the nebulous things that are going on in my head. In terms of how I'm feeling literally over the last 5 or 6 months, because it all sort of snowballed or bottlenecked, so to speak, over the last couple of months, which made me think that, oh God, if I only manage my time right, I'll be able to do it all. Or why should I, like I said, spit on all the universe's gifts and you should just say yes to everything? And this isn't really about saying no or some Instagrammable wisdom, but it is really about sitting and figuring out where I am and where I'm going.
Truly. And not even like setting a path, not setting goals. I'm not talking. Probably that may happen in the future.
Yeah.
But I find the authenticity with which we create, we write the first poem.
Yes.
When we write something because we are highly inspired.
Yes.
That may or may not be the finest thing.
Yes.
But that is the most beautiful, most purest experience.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to do that in every creation.
Yeah.
I feel that is satisfying.
That's fantastic.
It doesn't matter then where it goes because, as you said, your Instagram page had a life of its own.
That's true.
And I feel every creation, for me, I'm getting goosebumps, every session has a life of its own.
Yeah.
Every conversation like this, it takes its own turn and all you have to do is like go with the flow.
That's true.
But that happens with everything. Only if you remain authentic to yourself.
Let me just say something. You are absolutely right. Yeah, you are absolutely right. What can I say?
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, we literally had a moment, both
yeah,
of us. Like,
no, I mean, listen, you guys, I mean, we're in your ear, but if you were here in the studio, we're sort of like looking at each other and going, yes, like, oh my God, isn't it? Like, oh my God, yeah. So, yeah,
this is so, and we can actually see all of this on YouTube. We're gonna publish
the
conversation.
Oh no,
let's see your.
Excuse me, let me button up, please.
Oh. What happened to your push up to push up to push up? Whatever you're doing.
The push-up jump.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let me explain.
Yeah, we were recording in the nude for quality and training purposes. You can't tell from my handwriting that I have a sense of humor, thank God.
No. I don't think I had to look at the handwriting. I heard your podcast. I knew it.
Right. Can you tell me anything about my signature?
Yes. So your signature, when you write only your name, you that means that you love your independence more than anything else.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, if you do not add any surname,
the signature is not R. Lopez or Rachel middle name, father's name, whatever Lopez. It's just Rachel.
Just that.
Yeah.
And that is because you, so let's look at it, okay? Why you don't want, not you, but anybody who writes only the name, do not want their identity to be colored by any other reference.
Yeah. It's a baggage-free assertion of oneself.
As you may think.
I think, yeah.
As you may think.
Yeah.
But it also comes from not confining. It also comes from a kind of a rebel that exists.
Right.
It comes from, I do not wish to carry this identity
Of
as
myself.
mine.
Yes.
No, my family identity as mine for
Yeah.
all the perks or disadvantages.
Fair enough.
All of that. So,
Fair enough.
You don't think about all of this.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you write and you choose that, all of this is expressed.
No, and I do think about it because, and it's interesting that you said it in the way that you did. When I had to record my signature for my bank, and I was 15 or 16, and your parents send you with these little slips to bring 5,000 rupees or whatever it is, back in the good old days. And I think the teller said, "Is this your signature, beta?" And I was like, "Yes." He said, "Where is surname? Where is father name?" And I was like, I am operating my account, pulling out my money.
Right.
This is my name. No, official surname, official signature have to have. And I was like, dude, I'm not doing that. And there was literally a conversation. And even at 14, 16, it's not like I was consciously trying to be a rebel, and I never have been in that sense. It just meant to me that if I'm signing my own name, I'm signing my own name. And for me, then and now, and my surname is Lopez, guys. It could take me to Hollywood if I wanted.
Exactly.
So it's not a run-of-the-mill surname. It distinguishes me in terms of my religion and my region, if you care to look at it. And I was willing to forego all of that to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters. Yeah.
So you might have thought that as your idea, but if you look at it, without sounding very psychoanalytical about it, but it talks about why you want your own expression out there.
Right.
Why you want to, in a way, move away.
Right.
Now that explains most of your choices in life.
Fair enough. It's not heard. Yeah. Oh. You are absolutely right. She says again. I should just make a voice note.
Oh yeah. You're like, oh, let me play that one. I'll play that one.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing.
So, any other questions?
No, I have fully and thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Me too. It was such a treat to talk to you.
Thank you very much. It was mind altering in the best way to look at a different aspect of and may I say, exactly what it feels like to not be part of the herd. So this must be very fulfilling in the way that you kind of go about your job. How wonderful.
I want to ask you one question.
Yes.
Have you reached the climax?
Yes. Yes. You are absolutely right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I've had such a good time.